of online ConInc shills and Jack Posobiec and Caroline Levitt in a meeting yesterday. They were getting supposedly briefed as press on what the administration wanted to put out, how they wanted to frame some of their issues if this is the independent media. And again, love Donald Trump. Trump and Trump's administration, in my mind, are totally separate things. All right. I am going to judge them separately. I'm going to analyze them separately. And I am not going to assume that Donald Trump is orchestrating each and everything that happens with the administration. Maybe he is. Maybe it's all just a scripted military op. People say that all the time to explain any variety of things that they're uncertain about. If that's true, when does that end? Does it ever end? Because if we just changed from the enemy's false reality projection to the false reality projection put forward by our friends, what have we gained? All we've done is switched from Pepsi to Coke. I don't see how that could be better, but people guarantee me that it is better. How do we know it's better? Well, it feels better. And feeling better is all we can ever ask for. Power back to you, the people. No, sir, we'll pass. What we want is to feel better. And with that in mind, I made this meme yesterday. Cognitive dissonance upon getting rugged again, and truthers just consistently throw down their trump card. All of this is for waking up the normies. And at some point, someone who doesn't listen to my show will eventually say, he doesn't get it. This is all about waking up the normies. Hey, guys, I get it. I've heard this story so many times. I know that we have to trust the plan. I know that all of this is about waking up the normies. I mean, it's not. And the normies aren't waking up. And maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years of saying that, maybe at some point, it's just time to consider that maybe something else is going on. And that just maybe, if the people that we're cheering for, their plan is to lie to everyone all the time until everyone goes along with their agenda, that's not what good guys do. Just saying. Okay? I get the psyop to unwind a psyop. Maybe that works. Maybe it's working. At some point, you'd think that just maybe they would have to start telling the truth, or that we as truthers have to start telling the truth and not just sharing clips of mainstream media that says the thing that aligns with our side, because that's actually doing the work of the uniparty right. Okay? It's not being a truther. That's supporting Republicans in exactly the way that they're asking for you to support them. And of course, everybody's going to reject that because it's not true. Convincing people by lying to them is what psychopaths do. It's insane. And at some point, if we're truthers, if we're good people, if we're honest, and we want a government of, by, and for the people, we're going to have to start telling the truth. We're going to have to start demanding that other people tell the truth. And we're going to have to stop making excuses for liars by saying, hey, I know we're getting lied to, but these are the lies I like. And these lies for sure are going to get those people who don't believe these lies to believe these lies. And once those people believe these lies, well, they're going to come on our side. And they're going to be good guys too, just like us, the liars. And at some point during that process, as you might be observing now in the world of truthers and conspiracy theorists and the rest, the truth is no longer relevant. And it's just about supporting the psyop to get the people on the other side to believe the lies that we like. And in order to do that, it's our job to repeat those lies constantly to everybody until the point where we believe the lies too, because we don't want to feel like liars. So we better go ahead and believe all those lies. And at that point, are the normies waking up when they agree with you? Or are you just putting yourself back to sleep by saying they're lying for a good reason? It's to wake up the normies. I'm not going to say I know what's going on at this level. It's all hidden. It's fog of war. All the information we get is unreliable. No trust, no accountability. We don't have to form beliefs on any of these bases. And I do not suggest that I have all the right answers. So it's possible that some of this is to wake up the normies. Maybe all of it is to wake up the normies. Well, let's just say that maybe it's possible, just maybe 1%, that it's not for that. Okay. And if you admit that maybe, just maybe, like 1%, it's not actually all just good lies to wake up the normies, maybe you should just consider thinking about things or analyzing them in a way that doesn't dismiss all the contradictions in that totally unfallible theory and engage with the fact that maybe a lot of these people are just liars, having reversed the polarity, pushing forward the lies of the controlled opposition so that all of us are dog walked into that great reset agenda that was being pushed by the other side of the controlled opposition. 1%. Just give it a thought. I know it's all to wake up the normies. I've heard it. I know how to think about these sorts of things. Everyone has heard it thousands and thousands of times. Every time something confusing comes up. Oh, well, that's just a psyop to wake up the normies again. I see you don't know what it takes to wake up the normies. Okay. Are the normies awake? Or are people who were establishment conservatives and then supported Trump and then have, seen Trump win a fake election last year? He was announced the winner of this fake election by the television. And now everybody is rooting for normies at CPAC. Who do you think's on the stage there? Okay. Do you think that all of the fantasy team are just the most based and red-pilled people ever? They're all just high-level information operators who have insight into the entire plan? You think DC Drano has plan access? Tucker? Bongino? The Bongino thing is especially weird because in the midst of all the Epstein stuff yesterday, we got this from the New York Post. Would-be Trump assassin Thomas Crooks may have had an accomplice. Data show, as investigators say, FBI is suppressing info. So wait a second. The FBI is suppressing info on Jeffrey Epstein and assassination event number one at the same time? Thomas Matthew Crooks, say it ain't so. I mean, that's Bongino's wheelhouse. He's now deputy director of the FBI and the guy who disseminated the entire official story about Thomas Matthew Crooks and assassination event number one. The event, by the way, that came 2 days after JD Vance's owner, Peter Thiel, and Reid Hoffman were in a screaming match at a billionaire confab about martyring Trump. And then just 2 days after that, after assassination event number one, JD Vance was named the running mate in the fake election. God, it's crazy. I know this stuff is uncomfortable, and I'm very sorry to have to be literally the only person ever saying this stuff. 1%, okay? And here's the thing. It might be the case that all of those explanations are always right, all right? And if no one else is saying the thing, I'm going to say the thing. How can it be that truthers who have no idea what the plan is somehow respond to all of these things as this is just to wake up the normies? You have to trust the plan. Okay. Every time? Never doubt it as truthers. That's an interesting way to perceive your government while your government is still illegitimate and your elections are still fake. But you can't stop the grovel. The grovel is what everything is all about. If we don't grovel hard enough, well, the people with the D's next to their name might be the ones implementing the same agenda that the people with the R's next to their name are implementing. We should feel happy that we have Donald Trump to actually wake us up to these dynamics, if only we would take it. And to express these things is somehow anti-Trump. That is totally irrational. And yet. So let's get to exactly what set off this firestorm yesterday. This clip is saved as grifters posing. And by the way, most of these people, Turning Point USA or Turning Point USA adjacent. So this is the cast of Charlie Kirk, the cast of Tucker Carlson. All of these people have been running ConInc info ops and limited hangouts for the last 5 years. The Twitter files, limited hangout. It's hard to determine which of these people are most disgraceful. The title for biggest disgrace is a tough competition. Okay. Drano sees the photographers over there and goes out and holds up this Jeffrey Epstein book. Now, were they all told, take these books out there, hold them up in front of the press because we're going to taunt the press. We're going to taunt the regime. Maybe. Doesn't seem like that's what's happening. Doesn't seem like anybody would task these people to do that, but maybe. I don't know the plan. Here it is.
What we will
Look at
see
that.
soon
Jeffrey
will be
Epstein book. Now, very proud of themselves. So these people are influencers. They want to be famous. They want to be rich. They want to have status. They want to have power. These are influencers, okay? They're not journalists. They're not the media now. These are influencers who peddle info ops. And they have tons and tons of followers, as Karen Levitt said. All of that is true. They're on Tucker Carlson. Sobek's on War Room all the time. And again, I think he's different. And obviously, I think Steve Bannon's different. Why? Because they didn't lie about the election. And they didn't pretend that Joe Biden was a legitimate president. Steve Bannon went out every day and called Biden illegitimate. You got to wonder, with all of their followings and all of that power, why did they always call Biden legitimate? Why didn't they talk about election fraud? If we approach these things in different ways, if instead of focusing on waking up the normies, people who will not listen because they think that everybody on the other side is lying to them. And truth be told, when we're peddling Fox News narratives and the narratives from these people, we have made ourselves liars to those people. So why would they believe us? We can't argue to them about the morality of what we think. We can't show them that they are being hoodwinked because we're participating in the hoodwinking. What if all these people, what if all the truthers, instead of making excuses for all this obvious bullshit, actually just told the truth? What if the people out there, what if instead of just making excuses for these people running psyops, lying to everybody all the time because some plan's happening? And obviously there's a plan happening, not that we know what it is. There are many plans happening, which is another reason not to assume that because you can see a plan operative, that plan is therefore good, and the people participating and aligned with that same operation are also good. We don't need to assume any of these things. Trump can be good, but what we should really be focused on are objective truths and morality, so that no matter what psyop they throw at us, we are not getting hoodwinked because we don't have a terrible epistemology, like this is a black hat and this is a white hat. Therefore, what they say is true, or therefore what they say is false. That's moronic. If we were focused on objective truth, then maybe we would actually have something to convince the normies about, rather than telling them, oh yeah, you know what? Just watch this new clip from DC Drano. He really breaks it down. What if these people were focused on how fake and illegitimate our elections are? All of them are just trying to be friends with congressmen. Why is that? And why do the congressmen want to be friends with them? It's like they're all getting more power, more wealth, more status together. Do they ever break the rules of the party of false decorum? Have they ever been exiled from the party of false decorum? No. In fact, systems of power continue to promote all these people, and we give them our attention and our money, and we defend them when people call them out for their obviously ridiculous, deceitful, disgraceful behavior. This is who these people are. And they're being given excuses that they're just actors? On what basis could anyone say that? These are the people out there really moving the needle. Really? Have we gotten to truth? Are our elections fixed? Is our government legitimate? 24/7 trans content from the Daily Wire. Constant wokeness. It's all just ridiculous. And everybody just continues applauding like seals. They push out the based and red-pilled narrative within the controlled opposition dynamic. If you're going to script the Great Reset and the narrative control for the Great Reset, you can't just script that one thing and then allow everybody else to prove that thing wrong. You have to also script the thing that battles back against that without actually proving it wrong. And perhaps if people haven't been around and engaged in politics on this side of things since back in 2020 and 2021, you might not be familiar with this document right here. Was published by the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. The SPARS Pandemic 2025 through 2028, a futuristic scenario for public health risk communicators. But they go through, look at that. The very first page on the preface has these social media sites because possible future in the echo chamber. Okay. And so they are basically writing out how they are going to communicate a pandemic scenario. Now, if you had all the access to the money, to the power, to the social media platforms themselves, and you were going to script a narrative that was going to dog walk the entire public into the dystopia, into their own doom, and they would go there gleefully, would you only script one version of it? Of course not. And so you script multiple versions of it, and you will shift people's beliefs in certain directions until you find that nice, happy middle where your agenda is allowed to plow forward, but it seems like it is being opposed at all times. In fact, you might even create an opposition that was so vehemently against that narrative going forward that it would eventually lead its followers into the exact war and the exact actions, the civil war, etc., that they would want to set up so that they become justified in taking away all of the people's rights and imprisoning them and eventually killing them. And that's what they did in Germany in World War II. And they did it in Russia, and they did it in China. And they're using the same playbook here. And who is operating on that side? Well, this is the nice version, the controlled opposition. And then you have the mean version, which is the pro-Nazi op that is operative on social media. And once that version begins to take hold and begins to gather steam because they have offended everybody to such a great degree, well, then the controlled opposition, like publicly acceptable side of it, well, they'll back out and just leave the people there to be destroyed by that operation. That's the plan. That's always the plan. Okay. And that's what we have to avoid, which is why we don't subject ourselves to the controlled opposition and why we don't spread controlled opposition narratives, because we are getting ourselves hoodwinked and we are participating in the hoodwinking of others. The playbook is known. The playbook repeats over and over and over and over again. And if we ignore that fact and focus on who our quote unquote allies are, because they're the more powerful people pushing a message that's, sort of like ours, we need to get behind these people. We need to register all the voters we can. It's amazing that Scott Pressler is in that regime supporting election operation and then just in this regime supporting operation as well. Crazy how that happens. All these people, TPUSA. The New York Times said Charlie Kirk and Ben Shapiro and their outreach to young people is what won Trump the election. Is that what won Trump a fake election? An overwhelming public mandate from the people like Charlie Kirk and Scott Pressler and Ben Shapiro did that? I know. It's just waking up the normies. They have to do it this way, or else people would never go along with Trump's Make America Great Again. Totally reasonable, totally rational, totally American, totally corresponding with the original Constitution. Oh, the people would never get behind that. What they need is to be lied to nonstop through every method of authoritative source delivery. This screen on your wall at home, this screen in your hand, this screen on the computer, all the people chattering around who also watch the screens, all the sports, all the movies, all the scripted television shows, all the reality shows, pushing all the same different brands, but the same message. The people just wouldn't be able to figure it out without them. Waking up the normies, we're waking up the normies. And you know what? You should all be
thankful right now for Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel and President Trump for doing what they promised and releasing this. You should be doubly grateful that the way that they're releasing this to the American people and exposing this corruption is through the new media. It's through us. We're doing it. That's one of the most encouraging and fantastic things that we've seen from the Trump administration.
You should be grateful. They're releasing all this information just as they promised they would do. And not only that, they're releasing it through those assholes. You should be grateful. Get on your knees before these influencers and grovel. Do they interact with anybody on their pages? What's the answer? The answer is no. Why don't they interact? Why don't they? From a social media perspective, why don't they interact? Well, they don't want to amplify people who disagree with them. I do that all day long. I know how social media operates. I literally used to be a partner in a company that worked in celebrity and brand management on social media and interacted directly with the social media companies. Yes, they all have portals. You can ask them to take stuff down. You can ask them to make sure that celebrities and brands are protected in the comments. Why don't these people interact? That's why. You should be grateful that they're the ones getting the information. And that was at the point where she still thought it was special information. Of course, later in the day, she realized it wasn't special information. And now at this point, everything seems to be an anti-Pam Bondi op. But you're not allowed to be anti-Pam Bondi until, of course, she does a bad thing. And then you totally can be. But you can't insult Pam Bondi when Trump selects her, because then you're doubting Trump. Then you're not trusting the plan hard enough. And that's crime. You can go to jail for that. That makes you a traitor, don't you know? The most unifying voices in all of the truther community want you to know that if you ask questions about the decisions Trump announces that they don't know the reasoning behind whatsoever, and most of these people are morons, if you doubt the people Trump has spotlighted in real time, you're a traitor. If you doubt that person 2 months later, after you're disappointed from what you saw on TV, well, that's okay. So basically, they're just going along with consensus, wherever that consensus leads, while applying social pressure within the party of false decorum to corral everybody back into the pen. That's information gatekeeping. Why are prominent truthers doing that? I don't have an axe to grind with people who are not being pushed forward by systems of power and are just trying to grovel and attention farm within the party of false decorum online. Those are not my targets. All right. It's pathetic. It's gross. It should be called out.